Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very much. Welcome to a new session, a new class, a new training session on your training program in climate risk scenarios. Today, or in this lecture, we are going to begin to look at IPCC. All right. I briefly mentioned IPCC in our last lecture. The IPCC is the model, the foundation, the framework that we are going to use to build our climate scenario. Okay, this is the framework we are going to be using. IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So let's learn about IPCC before we can dive deeper into the major work. Now, IPCC, for introduction, basically it's a United Nations scientific body that has the responsibility for assessing climate change. So it is a body that is set up by the United Nations, and their job is to assess climate change and climate related risk. That is their job. So they look at all publications about climate change done by climate scientists and other scientists, and they assess and evaluate the authenticity and plausibility of the arguments and conclusions that those researchers and scholars are making about our future climate. Okay, that's what they do. So that body is called IPCC. Now, the IPCC was created in 1988 by the United Nations, as I've told you, in combination or in conjunction with the World Meteorological Organization. Okay, WMO, World Meteorological Organization. They came together with the United Nations to create Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, in 1988. Now, the IPCC, as part of their work, which is to assess climate risk, to assess anything about climate change, the risk associated with climate change, the danger it poses to the earth and humanity. Now, in that process of assessing that risk around climate change, they have managed to create some documentations. These, their reports, they're called risk assessment reports. They created about 6 risk assessment reports. Okay, the short form, they call them AR. So when you see AR, it means assessment report. Assessment report, AR1, AR2, AR3, AR4, AR5, and the latest one is AR6. So AR stands for assessment report. So IPCC assessment report, AR6. Okay, so they have created AR6, and this AR6 is what we are going to be using to build scenarios upon. All right, because AR6 is their latest work. The latest work done by IPCC is AR6. That is assessment risk 6, assessment report 6. All right, so we're going to use it for our project. Now, within the AR6, there is something I want you to know, something very striking. And what is that? There are scenarios. So I know you know what a scenario, a climate scenario is now. So there are plausible futures. All right, we call them plausible futures that we anticipate the world to head towards, to move towards. Okay, so these plausible futures are called scenarios. We have explained that. Now, each of the plausible future or scenario within the context of IPCC is called Shared Socio-Economic Pathway, SSP. So, every scenario within the AR6, all right, that is Assessment Report 6, created by IPCC, is called SSP. So SSP stands for Shared Socio-Economic Pathways. Shared Socio-Economic Pathways. Okay? So don't bother, you're going to understand the details of each of these SSP. All right. Now, shared socio-economic pathways. We're going to look at the SSP right now. SSP stands for scenario. Each SSP represents a climate scenario. Is that okay? Great. So there are 5 SSPs inside the AR6. All right. This is very germane and important point you must hold on to. So inside the AR6, that is the Assessment Report 6, created by IPCC, there are 5 SSPs, 5 SSP, yeah? Socio-economic pathways. Shared socio-economic pathways. There are 5. Now, these shared socio-economic pathways, each of them represent a plausible climate future. That's what I've just said. So we have SSP1, SSP2, SSP3, SSP4, and SSP5. We are going to look at them one by one. All right. So SSP1, that's the number 1. Let's start with the number 1, not 5. Beg your pardon. So SSP1 is called the Green Road. Okay. It is called Green Road because it represents that future where there will be drastic reduction in carbon emission, and because carbon emission has been contained and reduced, the global temperature or warming will also be held around 1.5. All right. Sorry, beg your pardon. So the global temperature will be 1.5 degrees, and it is assumed that under SSP1, the economic inequality among countries will be reduced drastically as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are the features or the characteristics of SSP1. So, it is very important that you should know. Beg your pardon. Let me have a cup of water. Sorry. All right. Thank you. So, these are the features under SSP1. Under SSP1, the number 1 feature is that the carbon emission will be low. That's number 1 feature. And because carbon emission is low, the global temperatures will hover around 1.5. It will not go past 1.5 degrees Celsius. All right. That's number 2. Number 3, economic inequality among countries will be reduced drastically. What it means is that there will be more equitable distribution of wealth. The global GDP growth among nations will be growing at the same pace, all right, rate. Therefore, poverty will be reduced, inequality will be reduced, and there will be that economic balance. These are the characteristics of SSP1. Now, SSP2 is called middle of the road, okay? It's called middle of the road. And under SSP2, the current policies will continue. It will be like business as usual. That's what I'm saying. Business as usual because you know what countries are doing right now. It's like we are too used to high carbon activities, high carbon products, high carbon vehicles. We're driving more carbon vehicles, right? So that trend is assumed to continue. That's SSP2. The trend of business as usual, the high carbon lifestyle, high carbon vehicle cars, more than electric cars on the road. And so it's just business as usual. Okay, that's the summary. Business as usual continues the way we are doing right now. No serious commitment. The commitment is not across board. Some companies are committed, while some companies are not committed. And another characteristics of SSP2 is that the temperature, please take note, global temperatures under each of these SSP, you must remember, even if you forget any other feature or characteristics of the SSPs, ladies and gentlemen, you must not forget the global temperature under each of the SSP, all right? So under SSP2, the global temperature will rise to 2.5 degrees Celsius, all right? That's what we're saying. And inequality will reduce, but slowly. Inequality will still be there, but it will not be rising. It will be reducing at a slower pace, the way it is now. Inequality across countries, among countries of the world, is reducing. Economic inequality is actually reducing, but is reducing at a very, very slow rate. That's what we're saying. So it is like business as usual. SSP2 is business as usual. Let me add, ladies and gentlemen, that SSP2 is like your baseline. It's going to be the baseline. If you want to compare the impact, we're going to see that later on. It's very interesting. You're going to see later on in this module. Okay, so business as usual continues. All right, so remember SSP2. You must remember that the temperature will rise to 2.5 degrees. Inequality will reduce, but very slowly. The reduction will reduce slowly. Okay, these are the two main characteristics you need to know. The most important characteristic here is the temperature, please. SSP2, 3, beg your pardon, SSP3, I don't know. I'm coughing and maybe I'm losing concentration. Please don't mind me. Let me take water, okay? Thank you. All right, thank you for allowing me to take water. Thank you. Make sure you grab water too. I know, grab water. Okay, SSP3. Okay, when we come back from the break, we will continue with SSP3, okay? So SSP3, do I have time? Yeah, I have time. Let's talk about SSP3. Now, SSP3 is very pessimistic. It's pessimistic. Now, let me not say very, because 4 is more very pessimistic. SSP3 is called the Rocky Road. The Rocky Road because there will be rivalry among nations and there will be little or weak cooperation among countries towards fighting climate change or global warming. All right? Countries will prefer their interest, their own national interest, ahead of cooperation with other countries to fight global warming. Therefore, there will be high emission. Carbon emission is going to be high. That's what we're saying here. In SSP3, there will be high carbon emission. All right. Carbon emission is going to be very high, and the temperature will rise astronomically to 2.8 to 3 degrees Celsius. All right. Global temperatures are going to rise up to 2.8 to 3 degrees Celsius. All right, Celsius. That's what we're saying here, ladies and gentlemen. So that is it. These are the characteristics of SSP3. SSP3. So in SSP3 is rivalry among nations. That's one characteristic. Number 2 characteristic is that weak cooperation. Countries are not cooperating. They prefer to chase their own national interests instead of coming together to cooperate to fight global warming. All right. And the temperature is going to rise astronomically to 2.8 to 3 degrees Celsius. All right. The reason is because there will be high carbon emission. And this high carbon emission will drive the global temperatures to 3 degrees Celsius. Thank you and see you in the next lecture.